Benjamin Franklin once said, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." The fact is, quality matters. Join us as we make quality fun, interesting, and accessible to companies of all levels. Quality Matters is a must-listen for all things quality. Listen in, ask questions, and get back to doing what matters most. Quality Matters, brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified.
Well, hello and welcome back to Quality Matters. I'm Kyle Chambers. We got Caleb Adcock here, and Caleb, it's been a little while since you went on. So we had Darcy on last week because I don't know, you decided you needed to take vacation for some goofy reason.
Probably shouldn't have.
Don't you have like the best job in the world, and there's just no need to escape from this life?
I was thinking about that while I was on vacation. I was like, I'd much rather be back at home taking customer service tickets. No.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool. It's good. So we are going to be taught. Well, you had kind of we had kind of a couple of thoughts about what we want to talk about today. So one, we were kind of talking about risk. So I think what we may do is save that for another couple episodes in the future, because I think we can probably talk about risk actually for a long time for one of these things that the standard doesn't really require a lot of documentation on. There's actually a lot of cool things to talk about. In any case, customer satisfaction is something else that I've had to talk with a lot of customers about recently. And we recently just added a module to our software to try to crack customer feedback and, customer information and logs and whatnot. So I think that's probably what we'll jabber on about today. So I guess I was talking with a customer just yesterday, and, I was trying to explain to him why I push non-conformance reports so strong for small businesses. Like, why is it that I care so much about each time we make a mistake? I mean, that seems almost like a negative way to look at it. But I told him, I was like, for a small business, the fact is you don't have folks on the payroll. You don't have the computer systems that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and all of these expenses going on to get you nice little pretty scorecards on everything, and to know at any moment how everyone's feeling with all of the team of people doing the customer reach out and all the follow-ups, things like that. So if we don't have those resources, because we actually like putting a roof over our families' heads, like the only way you can do it is to say, we are a good company, we hire good people, we train good people, we've got good processes, and we care about our customers. So every time there's a nonconformity, we'll record it. And if there's no nonconformities, well, then by default, we're compliant. Customer satisfaction, I think, is a lot of the same way, too. I mean, how frequently do you have, and I think we're pretty good with our customers, but how frequently do we have a customer call us to rave about how awesome we are?
Usually it's passing comments, or maybe they'll be saying something to you during a conversation about something else, or believe it or not, I try not to talk to our customers because usually there's problems whenever. I mean, no, we do get the feedback and all that.
Reason, though.
Yeah. Like if I have to talk to a customer other than training, it's not for a good reason. So
yeah, they're having some issue or can't figure out something.
Yeah, which is fine. It happens, but
we're here for
if we can eliminate that, that'd be amazing. So customer feedback, we've gotten quite a bit of, raving reviews, I'm sure people have seen the videos where we've done collaborations with certain customers. But yeah, most of the time it's nobody wants to speak up unless they've got a problem or, something's not how they think it should be, which, that's fair opinion.
Yep.
So yeah, I think kind of what you're getting at is like, no, you have to kind of make it a conscious effort to actually go out and gather, force yourself to get data.
It's tough. I mean, but and when I say customer satisfaction, what's the first thought that you think either comes to your mind or probably comes to most people's mind? Like, how do we track customer satisfaction? What's the common tool?
Well, you send out a little scorecard, or you got a little, like the bathrooms at the restaurant or the gas station where you hit the little the happy sign.
Face.
Yeah.
Neutral, brownie.
You got a bell you can ring for a happy customer at the grocery store. But comment cards, that's probably the biggest. Surveys, I think that's probably the biggest
I
thing.
forgot about the bell. I work for Kroger, years ago.
Yeah.
And I forgot they had that little bell, and that was like such a big deal. Someone rang it. It might happen once a week. Someone would ding that bell.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Is it your job to count?
Oh man. Oh,
somebody's got to track that data.
Yeah. And it's just like it's hard to track the positive because I mean, let's face it, it's human nature. And it makes sense, right? So you take us out of this modern world where all of the luxuries are provided to us. I don't have to hunt my food. I don't have to grow my food. I just show up to work. I mean, for the most
You don't have
part,
to wait.
but I just show up to work and kind of life is provided for me. But through the vast majority of like our time on this planet, we have to be concerned about danger. We have to be concerned about problems, and we're just naturally kind of negative creatures.
Yeah.
We pay attention to the problems.
Well, and one of the things you asked me is like, do I give positive feedback? Like, I actually try and go out of my way to do that. And I usually get made fun of by my wife or, my relatives and stuff. Because I think there's some
weird
commercial or something like that where it's like Geico can't save you from being your parents. And it's like the guy was tracking down the person's manager to like give him some positive, like that's totally me. I went and bought a pair of shoes and like this young lady helped me out. And I was like, that is the best service I've ever had with a pair of shoes. And I actually went and found a manager and was like, so-and-so helped me. And it was amazing. And I will be coming back. And, that was the first time I'd been in the store. And yeah.
Let me ask you this. Were you that way before you started working with TQA? Not saying we're like awesome and change your way of thinking, just like being in that small business mentality.
TQA, yes, but it was what I started working like customer service, like help desk. That's when I started being like, okay, like it's good to leave positive feedback and to let people know, give people credit for doing a good job. And it's, we could go on all day about how we think people aren't doing as good a jobs as they used to. So whenever you do see somebody that does a really good job, like you want to, you want to reward them for it.
That's fair. I like
whether that be through like a tip or, a compliment to their manager.
No, I agree with that. I like that a lot. And it is, things are just a little different now. And especially, I mean, gosh, I don't know how many things we can blame on COVID, but here's one more for the list. Is like, it did change our expectation of the service industry. I think it was already going south, but in any case, I guess kind of get back on the point though. It's like those scorecards, those little surveys. I mean, what's the criteria to give a super smiley face to a half smiley face? Why a 4 or a 5? This is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I hate choices that are arbitrary. I don't want an arbitrary choice.
The problem is, you want those to be simple so people actually fill them out. But like I think what you're alluding to is like, how do we know what a 4 is? Or how do we know what a 3 is? Is somebody feeling generous that day and, it worked like it was supposed to. So they gave us a 5 rather than it worked better than it was supposed to give us a 5.
Right. Yeah. And okay, so here's a cool example I forgot about. All right. So we went on vacation like, a week before, a little more so before you guys went. Great thing about small business, you can't ever take time off at the same time. In any case. And I remember I took the boys on a little fishing, guided fishing trip. I mean, it was nothing big. Like we just drove around like the little bay and the canals or whatever for a few hours. I say drove around, boated around, whatever. And you're just talking with the guy, and he said that he got left a 4.7 star review. And he's like, why didn't you give me a 5? And he said the guy complimented him about how wonderful the trip was. It was awesome. They had a great time fishing, wonderful catches. It was just great in every way is what he's telling the guy. But then he doesn't leave a full 5-star review on their little fishing app review thing. I forget what the name of it was. And I'm like, that's a dang good question. Why not give a full 5?
Yeah.
But I guess the point is just to prove how these ratings are sometimes kind of silly.
And I mean, come to think of it, we are like a society of stars now and reviews and, with all the shopping online and Amazon and, if you use the Uber app, like so-and-so's got 10,000 4.9 star reviews. Like, what does that even mean? How does that even happen? I know. And then you get your Amazon product that's got 200 4.5 stars and it's terrible. And you're like, how did that? Yeah. So it's like,
I need to say something as a disclaimer. I do put on our website that we maintain a 5-star Google review, but it's because people do care about this stuff, even though it is a little arbitrary.
Yeah.
So it's not my favorite way of doing customer satisfaction. If you're going to use a survey, I don't have an issue with the survey, but I kind of like the idea of the Net Promoter Score type metric, which is really, it's binary. Would you recommend the company or would you not? It's not scales of happiness. It's would you recommend me or would you not? And so really what you want to look for is you get a high 90s net promoter. Yeah, more than 90% of the people we work with say if given the opportunity, they'd recommend us. I think that's somewhat decent, way better than I got a 4.7.
Yeah.
But even then, you get a lot of folks that still don't respond. So like, what do you make of the not responders? Is it because they didn't want to be mean and say no? Is it because they had better things to do? Is it because they went to their junk email? I don't know. But what do you do with those that didn't respond?
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to believe that if somebody was super duper, well, I'm trying to think of what percentage of, like, let's say you've got customers that are super duper satisfied. They get the customer satisfaction thing. They're like, man, I'm going to fill that out because those guys did a great job. And then they just forget. And then they're like, oh, well, you would think that if people were excited, they would, make an effort to fill it out. But I know that I've done that.
Yeah. Well, I'm terrible about it. I love the Subway here in Caldwell. Every time I get the receipt, I'm like, oh, when I get back to the office, I'm going to fill out the survey. And I don't. I should.
We had one guy, it was the other day, I was at Home Depot, I was getting like a dryer vent thing. And the guy comes out and we did the curbside or whatever. I ordered it online and did the curbside. He comes out, he tells me a joke. He like makes the little, it was weird. It was awkward, but and then he gives me a piece of candy with a comment card. And he's like, please go to this, scan this QR code. It's 2 questions, mention me by name. And it's good for the company or whatever. I'm like, that guy just gave me a piece of candy, told me a joke while he handed me a comment card. And I'm like, think what you want about being handed. Think about what you want about being handed a comment card. But I was like, man, the guy really did try to make my, the joke was cheesy. I wasn't a big fan of it, but that's just me.
I wouldn't know what to think about it, but I like that it's encouraging some positive behavior.
Yeah, they want to know how their people bringing people's stuff out is. I mean, I guess whenever you're losing that interaction you used to have with people coming in stores now, well, you got to make it a point somewhere. Like, I'm going to go back to Home Depot so I can get another piece of candy with my pickup order. I don't know.
Well, I had to go this morning. There's another little local hardware store. I guess I'll give them a little plug, Woodson's. And man, I love shopping there over Home Depot. They're maybe a little bit more expensive on a few things, but not much. But man, I just love going in and talking to the folks, asking like, all right, what do you think about it? So this morning I had to go in and ask because we've got a horse that, thank God that the horse did not start trying to die on us while we were on vacation. But like the day we get back from vacation, this horse decides he wants to die. He's dehydrated. He keeps colicking. We're trying to figure out what we can do. Any case, I need him to go up there. It's like, man, if I can get some fans to put up in the barn, maybe I can keep him cool. But little stuff like that, just like having the chance to go ask someone a question, and I'm not getting pressured to buy crap. He's just like, yeah, I know. Here's what I think, and well, we got 3 of these, and we got 1 of those, and you take your pick.
Yep.
And just little things like that really freaking matter.
Well, and there's a fine line between leave me alone and hey, I actually need your help.
When I worked at Best Buy, I remember they had a rule, which I don't think is the rule anymore from my experience when I go in there to shop, but we had a 10:30 rule. So if they were in your department for more than 10 seconds, or if they were within, if they were within 10 feet of you or in your department for more than 30 seconds, you're supposed to say hi to them and offer to help. And that's it. And so that's what it was. If it was 10 feet or 30 seconds in your department, either one, you should just politely, hello, let me know if you need anything. Just something simple like that.
Yeah.
But these type of things, I think, still apply in the workplace. And I won't lie, I'm probably not the best about it with our customers. I probably should send a few more little thank you emails and things like that. Because look, we've got one right now. I don't want to give away names of no one or whatever, but man, I'm just so damn proud of the work that they're doing right now, because they've really struggled to put some things in place for a while, and they're getting these things put in place, and they're making some awesome improvements and little things like that. I think it'd be worthwhile to say, hey, I really see what you're doing. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Just the same thing, just a touch point, the same way that like Best Buy, the guy in the store, you just need a little touch point just to have positive,
and it goes a long way. Yeah, I mean, it's like writing thank you notes, or it goes a long way to make somebody's day better or give them incentive to actually, it's terrible when you think people don't care about what you do, or understand.
Yeah.
So whenever somebody's like, hey, you made my day better today, or you made made my trip to the store a lot more better,
so I definitely think, man, this is a whole other topic. We could probably have another podcast on, but like, I think a little bit of that reciprocal feedback is probably good for customer satisfaction. Good for supplier, man. In any case, whole other conversation there, relationship building. But I guess, one of the things we've been talking about, it's like, what are the metrics? How do you prove, like, generally, how do you give assurance? That's why they call it quality assurance. How do you give assurance to yourself, to if you've got investors, stakeholders, owner of the company, whoever, your auditor, that your customers are actually happy with you?
Yeah. So retention, that's a big one.
It is. That was one that we started doing when I worked for ACT. Now it only worked here because we had a cycle, right? So we had generally it was an 18-month outage cycle.
Yeah.
So we'd look for 18-month period A, which I guess would be like part of 2022 and 2023 or whatever. And then you'd look for the next 18-month, and what you want to look for is how many of the customers in period A returned as customers in period B.
Yeah.
And I think it's unreasonable to have an expectation of 100% customer retention for the most part, but you can set anything from 85, 90, 95% customer retention. It depends on your industry. Because your industry, your customers, you may have some folks that just aren't going to return each cycle, but you can calculate it that way. So obviously you got low customer retention, you probably doing something wrong, or the industry's in turmoil.
Yeah. Or, new product orders, it's one thing to order the same thing over and over just because that's what, but if the customer orders a new product or, something additional that they wouldn't, that's telling you that they're happy with their service and they're looking to increase that service.
Yeah. And if you're more of a retail shop, I don't know how accurate this would be, but like tracking returns or RMAs, typically for the customers we work with, returns and RMAs, not always, but I'd say more than 9 times out of 10 mean there was a problem with the product. Either it was misrepresented, it had a defect, they didn't understand how to use it, but there somehow or some way you probably could have done a better job in selling or providing the product to them. Maybe not a huge difference, but you could have made a difference. So you can track those returns and RMAs against your total orders. I guess that's another way you can track it.
I think also, and to what you were saying about RMAs and returns, is like we have the benefit of, having close contact with our customers. We do have a relationship. If you're a high volume product, type of place, and it's just somebody bought something online or something, you don't even know who they are, like you don't have that benefit, and a return is just maybe a 2-minute or like a couple word like wrong product or damage, so you don't even probably don't even know really what the reason was for the return, but the actual reason.
No, that's definitely different. When your business is a lot more product centered, it's the type feedback and the communication you have with your customer is totally different. I mean, you could have a number of customers you hardly ever communicate with.
Well, so there's a standard, right? I mean, surely there's some sort of something.
Yeah. So let's pull up here what ISO has to say. Let me throw this up. Oh, there we go. That's the layout I want. Maybe. Can we read that? I might need to do a little bit better layout here. Sorry.
I think it's okay.
Yeah. All right. We'll just make it work however it is. Let's see. All right. Cool. Okay. I can do better. So they've got a few new tools on the software here, so I'm trying to figure out maybe some better ways to to do this stuff. In any case, we take a look at the standard. Of course, I scrolled away from it. There we go. Monitoring, measuring, analysis, and evaluation. This is the clause from the ISO 9001. We're looking at clause 9.1. This is where we're talking about just in general what we need to monitor and evaluate for our business. Pet peeve of mine, I will say it drives me bonkers that monitoring and measurement here, well, granted, it's monitoring comma measurement. That's the same term they use for monitoring and measurement equipment. So they're the same words, but two totally disconnected processes, have nothing to do with each other. Just bad part on proofreading from ISO 9001. Okay. But we've only got a small section here on customer satisfaction. When you go to like API Q1, Q2, we've got a few more requirements, but I think the spirit of it's the same. We go to 912, the organization shall monitor customers' perceptions to the degree to which their needs and expectations have been fulfilled. The organization shall determine the methods for obtaining, monitoring, and viewing this information. They give some examples. Customer perceptions can include customer surveys, customer feedback on delivered products and services. It's pretty good if you can get it. I guess the comment card idea. Meetings with customers, which I want you to tell us about the new module for TQA Cloud, because I think that'd be a fantastic way to track that. Market share analysis, probably not for most of the small businesses we look at. Compliments, warranty claims, dealer reports. They list off a lot of different items here, but all of these could be a different KPI. And if you come up with something outside of it, that's perfectly fine too.
Yeah. Well, so you have to determine what your, sorry, I'm trying to summarize that. You have to determine what your customer deems as crap. Maybe pull that back up. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember that very first part. Perception of the degree to which their needs are okay. Yeah.
And it's like,
so you actually need to get your customers' feedback about customer feedback, apparently.
So this is one where, again, I try to tell folks don't overthink it, because there's a finite number of ways that we can do this, right?
I think that's what I just did. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like there's an infinite number of ways that we can track customers' perception. But one of the ways that we've been missing for a while is there is a lot of missed opportunity for kind of casual feedback. And depending on your organization, you may or may not find use of this, but tell us a little bit about the customer contact log. Again, this is a new module we added to TQA Cloud. If you're not a TQA Cloud customer, well, you ought to be. But if you're still not, you could create your own log and kind of follow along with what Caleb's telling you here.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially just a form, and it's not just customer fee. They call it customer communications log. So it's essentially any communication with the customer. We recognize the need for a formal communications tracker because, I think in a lot of people's situations, generally it's the sales department that does most of the customer communicating, or that's the person that gets called whenever something's wrong. And then, the salesperson has that buried 9 emails deep in 3 different chains. And so with the TQA Cloud customer communications log, it gives a number to each log. It tells who the customer is. You can sort, filter by customer. I mean, all kinds of it's just a way more organized way to do it. Yeah. I've been in multiple situations where a salesperson has either quit or left. Then you try and go back through their email, and you have to do keyword searches on, what stuff was. And it's just a whole mess. So it's just a really good way to, get a lot of metadata about what's actually going on with your customers.
And, if I were to put in a procedure that we're going to track our customer contacts and we're going to log them, immediately that sounds incredibly scary, because like, holy crap, I'm sitting there spending my whole daggum day typing in notes in the system. But what I argue is, again, if you hire and train competent, qualified, skilled people, you could give a rough rubric of these type of things should necessitate a customer communication. They are angry, irate, extended delays in delivery. They want to provide feedback. They want to give compliments. They want to request a change in the future. Like all these different things you could log in there, but you could give a real small rubric and then just tell your people, use your better judgment and then follow up on it. If someone's never entering anything, they're using zero judgment, not better judgment.
Yep. And I mean, you don't have to necessarily log every single email. Let's say you just got done with the correspondence and you're like, okay, so you attach the whole chain of emails, that kind of thing. It just gives you a good place to be able to quickly sort and filter that. You know,
And
I
then you
think
can go through it on a monthly basis too and take a look and see, like, should we maybe like do something about this?
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I mean, the ultimate bad customer in communication is an NCR from a customer. You know, that's not a good one.
But that does make for a good KPI though, because you could score how many orders you had or how many customers you had, how many hours you worked or products you delivered in any case. And you can have some measure of how many customer identified NCRs are acceptable before corrective action is required.
Yep. I can remember we were with I was with a company and we were just getting all that set up, the customer communications KPI. And so, you know, like I said, the salesperson, we went and talked to him. We're like, well, what do you think? And he's like, they're still a customer. Like, obviously they're happy. Like, no, I mean, technically, maybe, like, you know, they're putting in orders still. Like, okay.
So, well, and there is some truth to that. And so again, I'd say maybe, you know, some of it depends on company to company. But the first time I jumped into this, long time ago when I was first putting QMS together, and I knew I had to have a metric on customer satisfaction. And I've told this story before a bunch of times, I'm sure, but I went into Gene Bucky's office. He was old school sales manager. I mean, the dude was probably over 200 years old, smoked a cigar, drank his whiskey every day. Like, I mean, we know what kind of guy we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I go in his office and I tell him, Gene, I'm trying to put together KPI to better track customer satisfaction. Like, I need with numbers to prove our customers are happy. Like, you got any ideas? Purchase orders. Slams on the desk. That's all he says. Nothing else. I stood there staring at him kind of blankly, like waiting on him to talk more. That's all I said. And I was like, thank you, Gene. But it was right. I mean, it was right. If they do keep buying from you, either they got Bupkis choice or they like you.
Yep. I guess you would need to distinguish, okay, who are the ones that are just trapped using us, you know, or who are they going to jump ship at the first possible chance? Or are they actually happy customers?
And that starts to get a little out of the customer satisfaction metric. And that's really when you get into like clause 5 planning and strategic direction type stuff.
Yeah. Market share and all.
I mean, it's I guess customer satisfaction really isn't all that complicated. It's just the fact that you have to recognize that you don't always get honest feedback, and you definitely don't get 100% of your feedback.
All right, so let me ask you this. As an auditor, you go to a company, you're doing their ISO audit. What are you looking for with customer satisfaction clause?
Really, I'm looking for, honestly, any example of something that we've just talked about. I want to see where they either have a scorecard, communication with it, they're tracking NCRs. I might be okay if the company is tracking when they issue a CAPA related to a customer issue, but by that point, I'm kind of, man, I think you probably missed a lot of opportunities. Now, if it's, say this is a very design and engineering heavy company, the CAPA, then multiple ECN process, that may make sense. But if you're a typical manufacturer, typical service provider, I don't know. That one causes a little bit of a red flag. What I hate to see is no documentation. Now, I can't. Here's the problem I have, though. Here's the problem I have as an auditor is show me right here where it told me I have to have a record. It says you'll monitor customer perceptions.
Yeah.
You'll determine needs for monitoring and reviewing information. It didn't actually specifically say you have to have a record.
Yeah. So well, also like how often do you have to do it? When, you know, what's the gap? Like I didn't see any of that. It did say that examples could include, but you could have what, 2 of those? And one of them was from last year and one was from 4 years ago. I mean, does that technically say that you're
if it was something like that, I would very strongly encourage them to show me evidence of customer satisfaction. And I've had folks bring out they go into their full financial breakdown, and they bring the bean counters out, they bring the sales guys out, and they're showing me all of their reports and profitability. I'm like, guys, I get it. Cool. We're more profitable. I understand that means that customers clearly like you because they keep spending on you. But I've also seen companies hit a bubble in a market and burst, and their success had bupkis to do with how happy their customers are. So that might be a real good example to leave an OFI and say, I'm not seeing enough here. You may be doing information great, but I'd like to see some better documentation about how you're going to monitor it. But it's just an OFI. And if they don't have any level of improvement that next year, I'd leave a finding, and I'd like tech review verify that I was correct in leaving the finding.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I would do if I was still a third-party ISO auditor.
Yeah. Well, I guess to finish, what would be your main advice for improving customer satisfaction?
Probably need to take my own advice here and be more proactive with it. Honest to God, like I think that's really the best advice. I think I need to take it myself, is I need to be more proactive about reaching out to customers. And I won't lie, sometimes it's like, I hadn't heard from these folks in forever, so I kind of assume they're doing okay. I don't want to be the pestering sales guy because I've got those before, and you're afraid every time you hear from him, he's just bucking to get another dime out of you. I need to think on that one, but I really think that might be it, because I think if you're proactive and there are problems, you open the door.
Well, so granted, I'm the one that asked the question, so I had a little bit of time to think about it. But I was thinking communication. A lot of problems can be, if not avoided, padded by just letting somebody know, like, hey, sorry, but this might be a day late, or we had this happen. We're working to fix it. It's not just showing up as a surprise, and hope
and
they didn't
overshare information. And again, I'm guilty of this here too.
Yeah. That's true too.
If you're going to be late, you don't have to tell them why you're late.
Yeah.
If it's critical to them, they'll ask and they'll let you know. But I mean, that's hard to do though. I struggle.
Yep. I think people are fairly understanding as long as you're not trying to, hide stuff from them or pull the wool over their eyes or what.
No, I think you're totally right. I do. I think you're teetotal right. So no, I hope this is a good one. I hope this helps some folks out. I mean, because customer satisfaction is one of these weird, vague clauses. Again, it's a little more important in API Q1, Q2. It's the same philosophy. It's the same. You solve it for one, you've kind of solved it for the other. I think you just need to do a better job of showing documentation for Q1, Q2. So that's it. Well, cool. So we got another one in the books. This is 187. I was looking at we're getting someone to do a little bit of work to try to clean up the podcast a little bit, see if we can push. I'm hoping we can, maybe not yet, but I'm hoping we can push the videos out to like Spotify and stuff like that. But it's when I was looking at everything, I'm like, man, we started this in 2018.
Sheesh.
It's a long time, man. Now, granted, I've not been. There might have been a few months where I didn't have an episode, but we've pretty well been consistent.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Especially lately. Yep.
All right. Well, you got any final thoughts for folks before we let them go?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, if you ain't already, be sure to like and subscribe. And hey, maybe we'll have a video headed your way wherever you listen. And be sure to check us out on YouTube. Do leave comments on there because we're planning to do another listener Q&A session. So leave comments. And to everyone who has left the comment, no, we don't have a copy of the leaked version of ISO 9001 2025. Wish I had a leaked copy of it, but I probably wouldn't share it if I did. So y'all have a good day.